we're going to talk about social studies today.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of our parent series, our Daily Wonder parent series. So social studies is our topic, and our Daily Wonder approach to social studies. So we can probably start by saying that our perspective is one of like a developmental perspective, where we really consider the development of the children of the age. And then we make a pedagogical choice, that is to say our method of bringing social studies to each age group is through storytelling and immersion.
Yes.
So in the really early grades 1 and 2, we really work with diversity. We work with diverse stories from all different cultures and different places, fairy tales in grade 1, and then the hero stories and the fables in grade 2. And we try to represent diverse cultures across the globe and even bring in different languages and things like that whenever possible. Kind of focus on the rights, roles, responsibilities, as well as just this aspect of diversity across place and time. And then into grade 3, we add a heavy layer of Indigenous stories and First Nations peoples across the continent that you find yourself on. And we bring the stories of longing, searching, connection to spirit, and whatever. We chose the Old Testament for that theme, and families are invited to choose a story that works for them, that meets their values and meets that developmental stage of their children. And this idea of immersion just means that all the activities around the stories that we're bringing the social studies curriculum through, we really immerse the children in hands-on activities, in the art, the language, the music of a culture, so that we can have an appreciation for a culture. And what else can we say about that? I'm going to get you, Jen, you want to talk about the grades following grade 3.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything about the younger grades?
No, I think that was good. You covered it.
Yeah. And then as you get into grade 4 and up, there's this beautiful dynamic between geography and history that intertwines. And I always visualize it as this double spiral where geography starts at the child and spirals out further and further into the world. And history starts farthest back as we can remember and spirals inward and inward and inward to the current time where the child is. So there's this beautiful relationship between geography and history. So get into some details there about that.
Right. So I just love the social studies, the subjects. And so if we look at geography first, and Rebecca said, we start at the center where the child is, it's because, that's the most relatable thing to a child at the age of 9 or 10. So we don't just start, with some really big, vast concept. We start with them literally mapping out their bedroom, mapping out the layout of their home, the neighborhood, their route to school. Like a big piece for us is the child is waking up to their own individuality in the world. And we want them to have a sense of belonging and comfort and self-sufficiency, that like, oh, I can navigate myself. I know where I am in the world. So from grade 4 local geography, that slowly expands to the region that you live in. And then by the end of that school year, the final unit of grade 4 is expanding to the province or the state that you live in. And it's all, again, immersion. So lots of field trips are encouraged, and lots of drawing and lots of hands-on activities to really familiarize your child with their local surroundings, the animals, the trees, the bodies of water, where you can hike and fish and things like that. And then geography expands. So then it moves to your country, then in grade 5, and then it moves in grade 6 to the continent that you live on. And all of this is, again, wrapped up in history as well, and the Indigenous history on the land that you live on. And then after we expand to the continent that you live on, then grade 6 also expands. Like if you're North American, then you're studying the European continent next. If you're living in Europe, you're going to be studying North America. So Europe gets studied, and then we expand in grade 7 and study Asia, the continent of Asia, and Africa. So it's this ever increasing expansion. to appreciate all the different, diversity and culture around the world. And then at the very same time, we have history, which is starting in ancient civilizations and then spiraling into more current times. So in grade 5, we begin this journey of the ancient civilizations, which is really looking at the foundations of civilization, ancient India, and we take this journey through to Persia and Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. And all of the lessons are coming through the myths and the cultural stories and the religious texts, and immersion in the feasts and the food and the clothing and the art and the different practices and written assignments. So full immersion. And then the final history unit, which is also inextricably linked with geography because they're mapping out the land and they're learning how to make more detailed maps, and they're understanding the animals and the vegetation of the land as well. But by the time they reach geography or ancient Greece, there's a shift from mythology to history. So we're suddenly learning the history of the battles and the key figures that were living at that time. So that's the shift around the end of grade 5. The children are ready for, the reality of the history. They've moved from mythology. And then that takes us to Rome, where they're studying the ancient history of Rome. Then Rome leads us to the Middle Ages, all the different phases of the Middle Ages and the medieval times, and then the birth of the Renaissance in grade 7. And then, we're coming closer. We're now up into the 1500s, and that's where our history comes to an end in grade 7. And then if you progress in this style, you eventually come to the modern current times, which is this spiraling inwards for history.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful relationship, right? And then there's this thread all the way through this Indigenous perspective, always from whatever place you're immersed in a certain grade. There's this viewpoint, this Indigenous knowledge, and this connection to principles of learning. And
Exactly.
And it's I love that idea of the spiraling. And if the whole point is for students to get to know themselves, it helps to have this variety, this diversity of perspective to kind of gauge, okay, where am I at, and what am I, what inspires me along the way.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I feel that the Waldorf education that we were trained in and inspired by, has been cutting edge for 100 years, in that it knew that we must provide this feeling of all the different cultures and the diversity, and children literally are immersed to feel what it's like to be speaking that different language or singing those songs or eating that food. And it's what we're familiar with, we're less likely to fear or judge in a different way. And so that's really building those forces of compassion are built into these lessons, because the children are exposed to all the different religions through really feeling them in their heart, and exposed to all these different histories through time. And it makes for a very informed citizen, as they become adults.
Yeah, absolutely. And you spoke about feeling. I mean, it just goes without saying that through drawing the cultural, artistic style of a culture, singing the songs and the mood of the music, speaking some verses in that particular language, it's a completely different experience to have that as a child than to just read from a textbook about a certain culture. This idea of immersion really speaks to the feeling as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's so enriching. And I know that we know that children, like, what they take away with them at the end of their elementary school education is what they feel, what they can remember through their feeling. And my son, who's now 15, can still recite the Lord's Prayer in Latin, because that was something that they got to learn in grade 7. And that's provided in our Daily Wonder curriculum too. Like, what an amazing opportunity to learn to recite Latin, and just have a feeling for like such a different language and culture.
That's right. Yeah.
And again, yes, everything's tied into the BC big ideas as well, because there's a lot of focus in grade 4, 5, and 6 on Indigenous values and conflict, and the ways that the settlers and Indigenous values kind of work together, and how we look at natural resources on the land and economics, and how that can be creating conflict as well. So that's woven into all of the geography and history.
That's right. And systems of government and how
Well, we lost your voice. You're muted.
There was the
there you
phone's doing some other things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're
we
back.
had a couple
Systems
of
of government.
interruptions. Hopefully, yeah, systems of government. We were just saying that that's part of, it's embedded in the stories and in the discussions and activities that follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Sounds amazing, doesn't it? And I think as teachers and parents, what a gift to go along with your child and learn all these things too, because I myself didn't have the experience of learning through my feeling life. It was all directed at my head. So I don't have a lot of memories of things from my social studies myself as a child. So it's very impactful to do this alongside children now and learn it all in a different way. It's beautiful. The world is beautiful, Jen.
It is beautiful. And you make a really good point. Like as a parent going through this, guiding your child, it is amazing the amount of gaps you fill in on history and things that you've heard references to in your lifetime. You're like, oh, that's that. Like the way we bring it, it's meaningful. Everything's connected and is very meaningful. And that's what Rebecca's referring to. And what we missed as children is just information coming at our head, but not really understanding how it's all connected. Yeah. And if it's not meaningful to you, you don't really care.
That's right.
So we are excited for the parents too, because you're just going to be so enriched and so filled with wisdom and knowledge.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that about covers it. Was there anything we missed?
No, I think that's everything.
Great.
Nice chatting with you.
Yeah, you too. Next week, we're going to talk about mental health.
Yes.
So looking forward to that.
So we're going to be talking about how Daily Wonder approaches mental health and brings it into the curriculum, weaves it in.
That's right. And not only for children, but also for those adults who are bringing the curriculum to the children. So we'll meet you next week, same place, same time.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you for showing up.
Bye, everyone.